In a film, every color influences us psychologically. Red speeds up your heartbeat, while blue slows it down. Red also signals danger on screen, and blue represents sadness. But why does green symbolize both hope and sickness? Why is purple associated with the extraordinary? In cinema, every color choice is intentional. So take notes because after this video, you'll never see movies the same way again. Blue. Let's start with the color that used to be my favorite, blue. Yeah, like everyone else. No personality, we agree. Blue is a calm color, one that literally slows our heart rate. It's physiological. Why? Because for us and our ancestors, it's the color of the sky and the sea. And psychologically, the sky and sea are reassuring. They bring peace and safety. That's why in movies, this color is used to temper a scene, to signal to your subconscious that everything's fine, that we're safe. It's no coincidence that police uniforms are blue, or that the UN flag is blue too. Because deep down, blue makes us feel secure, whether through a character's outfit or the set around them. A blue-dominated world often represents peace, serenity, and calm. It also sends another message to our brain. Since forever, the sky and the sea have represented infinity. And infinity has always inspired humans to explore, outwardly or inwardly. It can mean discovering the world or discovering oneself, thinking, reflecting, dreaming. In cinema, blue represents a dream world, one waiting to be explored. In the Middle Ages, blue dye was rare, so it was used for prestigious things, like depictions of religious figures. The Virgin Mary's blue cloak, for instance, reinforced symbols of peace and spirituality in the collective imagination. So yes, spirituality, escape, peace. But all that can have a darker side. As we saw, blue slows your heartbeat, but slow it too much, and you reach another kind of peace found in every culture. Death. This time, blue keeps its meaning but turns colder, sadder. It tells your subconscious that a character is drifting away, physically or within themselves. That's the blue of isolation. In films, bluish tones often trap the character in their solitude. Even props can reflect this, signaling that the character is trapped in their own mind. That's why blue appears so often in psychological dramas. It indicates that the real struggle is happening inside the character's head, like during grief. Characters mourning someone are often surrounded by blue, because grief is both sadness and loneliness. Ultimately, blue is the color of a life on pause. In some sci-fi movies, blue also suggests a character surrounded by others, yet still alone. Blue cools emotion, it isolates. So when you see blue on screen, know that it tells your subconscious, the situation is calm, the characters are safe, or dreaming, or maybe lost in thought, isolated in a world of sadness and melancholy. It swings between peace and sorrow, and you'll see, that's true for every color in cinema. Green. Now let's talk about green. That's nature. Easy. For our ancestors, seeing green in the distance was good news. It meant food, vegetation, harvests, fertility, life. It meant survival. That's why today, green represents luck and hope. It's also a pleasant color for our eyes, because it sits at the center of the visible spectrum. That means our eyes don't need to strain to process it. It feels natural, balanced. And that's key. Green is balance, harmony. A welcoming green can coexist with a darker, more unsettling one. Because in the Middle Ages, green dyes were chemically unstable. They faded quickly. To stabilize them, artisans intensified the color using something called verdigris, a bluish-green pigment. It worked, but it was poisonous. The artisans who made it often died from exposure. Centuries later, we tried again, this time adding arsenic to stabilize green pigments. It looked beautiful, but was still deadly. Arsenic released toxic fumes, and by the time people discovered it, countless lives had been lost through poisoned wallpapers, toys, and cosmetics. These tragedies embedded a new meaning into green: poison, sickness, decay. Green became a color that corrodes because it's also the color of mold and rot. In our collective subconscious, green represents destruction. In films, it signals to your brain that the atmosphere is toxic or unhealthy. That's why many villains are surrounded by green, to show that the character is consumed by jealousy, greed, or obsession. Emotions destructive, they're portrayed like diseases. Sometimes green colors the whole world of a film, not because a character is sick, but because the society is. A rotten world. And those sickly green tones often indicate something unnatural. Because yes, green means nature, but also the opposite, the unnatural. Again, because of its toxic chemical history. For example, in Soylent Green, the food humans eat is made of humans. Completely unnatural, and that's why it's green. Greenish tones suggest a world contaminated by something against nature. The character themselves often embody that corruption. So in your subconscious, green evokes sickness, mental or physical, like cancer, but also money, greed, drugs, or anything artificial. It can represent a sick world, yet paradoxically, it also represents health, harmony, nature, hope, and life. A single color can send countless signals to your subconscious. Yellow. Now on to yellow, the color of the sun. For our ancestors and our subconscious, yellow is the color of energy, stimulating serotonin and vitamin D, making us happier, more positive. That's why we've always linked yellow to joy and optimism. No matter what's happening between the characters, yellow tones often symbolize a ray of sunshine in life, a positive energy. Yellow is also the brightest color of all. It grabs attention, stimulates our visual cortex, and boosts brain activity. That's why yellow is associated with creativity. It literally stimulates it. In movies, imaginative worlds often glow with yellow tones to emphasize creativity and fantasy. A yellow scene often means the reality on screen can't be trusted. An overly bright sun, for example, can signal a distorted perception, an utopian, imaginary world. Yellow is also used to express nostalgia, because nostalgia is an idealized, filtered version of the past. In film, even if a memory looks beautiful, it's still false. It exists only in the character's mind. And characters who blur imagination and reality, they're often surrounded by yellow. That's how yellow becomes the color of madness. The classic descent into insanity scenes, almost always drenched in yellow. It's the color of a mind unraveling. And it works for drunkenness too, because our subconscious sees intoxication as a form of temporary madness. Optimism, joy, madness, but also divinity. Yellow is the color of the divine because it's linked to the sun, and the sun was long seen as a god. It's also linked to gold, another divine symbol. But that's where its meaning flips again, because yellow is also the color of betrayal, for the same reason. In the Middle Ages, dull yellow was seen as fake gold, a counterfeit. Over time, yellow came to symbolize lies and deceit. In Christian art, Judas was often painted in yellow, cementing its link to betrayal. That's why yellow tones often accompany stories of treachery, corruption, or vice. Subconsciously, yellow tells us that something's wrong, that danger lurks. It's an anxious color. Overly sunlit worlds, golden glows from a golden age, often hide danger or madness beneath the surface, and often they foreshadow tragedy. In short, remember that yellow means warning. You're in danger. We use it in daily life, too, on caution signs, traffic lights. In cinema, yellow lighting or decor in crime-ridden settings signals danger and anxiety. Horror films love it. Yellow wallpaper, yellow lights, yellow clothes. Others use it more subtly, but either way it creates unease. Yellow also symbolizes exclusion. For centuries, it marked those society cast out, most infamously the yellow stars worn by Jewish deportees during World War II. A symbol of oppression, suffocating and painful. That same feeling can be evoked in many films: oppression, anxiety, danger, madness, but also joy, optimism, divinity. That's the complex psychology of yellow in cinema. And if we warm it up a little, we get the warmest color of all, orange. For our ancestors, orange meant fire, and fire warms, gathers, and pushes people to socialize, to communicate. Today, this color still sends the same message. It shows that a situation is friendly, that characters are open to meeting and talking with others. Psychologically, orange improves our mood and even stimulates our appetite because it reminds our subconscious of citrus fruits, oranges, mandarins, all rich in vitamins. In cinema, orange equals fire, equals heat. These warm tones appear in countless films. It's the universal symbol of warmth, because orange can mean a cozy little fire, but when it dominates the screen, it turns into a raging, uncontrollable blaze. When orange is on screen, the danger isn't hiding anymore. An astronaut in an orange suit? That means they're heading into adventure or danger. Those orange, desert-like, suffocating tones, the sides showing that it's scorching hot, also tell your subconscious that this world is doomed. We're not avoiding danger anymore. We're surviving. No more nature. No more life. It's already too late. The psychology of orange in cinema is uncontrolled destruction, the flames of hell, a devastating inferno, or, at the other extreme, a warm, welcoming fire. That's orange. Red. Now this color, red, isn't one that whispers. Red shouts. Red takes up a huge space on our visible spectrum. That's why we notice it instantly. It grabs our attention right away, making it a powerful tool for filmmakers who want to direct our gaze. But beyond burning your eyes, sorry, I'll stop, red triggers something magical inside your body. Physiologically, it raises your heart rate and blood pressure, because for as long as humans have existed, red has meant blood. It's the ancient signal of injury, of war, of danger. It's visceral. Red awakens our primitive instincts. It puts our body on alert, ready for action. That's why we instinctively associate red with anger and violence, primitive emotions tied to blood and battle. When red appears in a film, it's telling your subconscious that anger, violence, or hatred has happened, or is about to. In any case, an extreme emotion. Filmmakers who truly master red know how to announce violence before it even happens. They might bathe the scene in dim red light, subtly warning you that aggression is rising. We feel it, that something's about to explode, that there's a threat, whether human or technological. And when red floods the screen, it's simple. Danger could erupt from anywhere. It's like an alarm that never turns off. In most cultures, red symbolizes evil and the devil himself because of the flames of hell. But it also represents prohibition, the forbidden. The message of red is clear. If you cross this line, you risk everything. But when you think about it, crossing lines, taking risks, that's not always bad. Going to war, getting hurt, those can also mean bravery. That's why, in the past, scarlet and crimson were reserved for kings, emperors, and elites, symbols of strength and honor. And that meaning stuck with us. Even today, when we roll out the red carpet, it's to honor those who walk on it. Red means not staying passive. It's about taking action and facing hard truths. So, when red appears on screen, it signals courage. Because yes, red is also the color of bravery. It subconsciously tells us a character is confident, determined, courageous. Extremely so. And that's the key word, extreme. Because for our ancestors and across cultures, red is the color of the heart. And for centuries, people believed the heart was the seat of emotions. So when you see red, it's never about mild feelings. It's about desire, passionate love, fantasy. Red is never lukewarm love. Some films overuse it because it works psychologically. Others play with its dual meanings, the passion and the forbidden, or even obsessive love. That's red in cinema. Strong emotion, passionate love, violent hatred, or immense courage. But here's the surprising part. For a long time, all this psychology around red also applied to its neighbor, pink. Until the 20th century, pink was seen as light red. It carried the same meaning as red and was even worn mostly by boys. Pink was considered masculine. Girls back then wore light blue. It's only in the 1950s that pink became a feminine code. It turned into the color of candy, cotton candy, cherry blossoms. Pink began to embody sweetness and tenderness, returning to a meaning it's always had deep in our subconscious. Newborns. That soft pink skin of babies represents total innocence, the complete absence of danger. That's what pink is, a color so soothing it actually reduces anxiety and aggression. Some prisons even paint their walls pink to calm inmates. All of this makes pink a peaceful color that enhances scenes of tenderness in cinema. It can also evoke warm nostalgia, a comforting longing for an innocent world. But if you overdo that innocence and softness, you quickly reach immaturity and naivety. A child, basically, someone who sees no evil, someone who literally sees life in pink. In film, it can be a prop that symbolizes a character's tenderness, but also their immaturity. It's not a color you can take seriously, because there's nothing serious about innocence or childishness. If you made an alarm flash pink, it wouldn't feel alarming. It'd look like a toy. An adult wearing pink? Instant infantilization. A character surrounded by pink? They're the childish one. Pink highlights immaturity, but also femininity and tenderness. A pink-dominated setting tells us we're in a soft, gentle, feminine world, but also one full of naive characters who see life through rose-colored glasses. Our mind immediately gets it. We're in an innocent, immature universe. Pink is less about emotion and more about storytelling, a directorial tool rather than a mood. It's rare in films, but there's one color even rarer than pink, and it means something entirely different. Purple. In ancient times, to create purple dye, you had to harvest a specific sea snail to extract Tyrian purple. It was extremely expensive, so purple became a color reserved for emperors and royalty. That's why today, purple symbolizes luxury and power, in almost every culture and in cinema too, especially in costume design. Its rarity makes it an extraordinary color, a color beyond the ordinary. Purple signals an aristocratic world, a realm of the exceptional, the unreal. Over time, filmmakers turned it into the color of magic, mystery, and dreams. It bathes certain scenes in an ethereal, dreamlike atmosphere, thanks in part to the blue within it. But there's also a scientific side to purple. It sits at the border between warm and cool, between red and blue. It contains both extremes. That's why it symbolizes wisdom and transition, because it literally is the transition between two poles. Wisdom, transformation. That's what your subconscious feels when it sees a purple-tinted scene. It signals metamorphosis, royalty, the extraordinary, power. When a character is surrounded by purple, it often means they're changing, evolving before our eyes, a transformation. It can also appear in the setting to foreshadow a turning point, to tell you you're leaving the ordinary world for a magical or luxurious one, a world apart. Sometimes even too far apart, so far it becomes unsettling. This purple plant, aconite, is known as the most poisonous plant in Europe, and purple dyes have caused industrial accidents throughout history. And guess what color represents radiation today? That's right, the one closest to the edge of our visible spectrum. Purple. All that history made modern filmmakers associate purple with poison and chemical toxicity. You'll see it in many villains: purple explosions, purple lightning. It signals magical toxicity. Earlier, we said green symbolizes psychological poisons, jealousy, envy, corruption of the mind. But purple? Purple is the chemical poison, real, tangible, deadly. That's what purple means: transformation, power, poison, destruction, rarity, and the extraordinary. Now that we've explored every color, keep in mind that for a long time, cinema looked like this. And yet, filmmakers of that era could still make us feel so many emotions. We'll see how in the next video. Subscribe if you haven't already. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to drop a like and leave a comment below.